Hi everyone, I'm Marlin Schoffstall and I'm here today to show everyone how to make a straight through patch cable and how to identify the three different types of patch cables. First, before we begin, I would like to go over some of the equipment that we will be using. For the very first thing, the end, which is the male end of an RJ45, looks like this. It has 8 pins and they're numbered as you hold it up like that from your left to your right, 1 through 8. The next item that we will be using is what we call a crimper. A crimper comes into a few different styles. Most crimpers will do phone jacks as well as RJ45 for data jacks. The next thing that we'll be using is what we call Cat5 cable. Alright, there's 3 different types of cables and I will go into those briefly, but what's in my hand is a Cat5. And the very last thing we need is what we call a pair of Snips. They're little miniature scissors. They have different types of kinds that actually strip the wires for us, but for my case I'm using Snips. The next thing what we want to go over is the color scheme on how the color pins actually go into a Cat5. First of all, on the RJ45, what we have here is the color pins. Alright, as you notice from left to right, this is what they call a 568A, and we no longer use, well, technically we still use 568A, but it's not the industry standard according to IEEE, which stands for Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. Alright, and so this is a 568A. You'll find these more in a new home type settings, basically for phones. And basically on the right hand side, or your left hand side, we start with the green. It goes from pins 1 through 8. We have white, green, green, white, orange, blue, orange, white, brown, and brown. Now pairs 1 and 2 are what we call our transmit pairs. Pairs 3 and 6 are our receiving pairs. Now pairs 4, 5, 7, and 8 are what we use as spacers, which make it easier for us to actually make the RJ45 cable ends, and it also counts as spacers as it goes through the wire for crosstalk and stuff like that. The other end, which is now the industry standard, is a 568B. It's the exact same thing as a 568A, but the only difference is instead of starting off with green on your left hand side, you're using the orange pairs. So you swap pairs 1, 2, 3, and 6 from a 568 and a 568B. The transmit and receives are the same on both ones, which is transmits 1 and 2, and the receives are 3 and 6. Alright. In the last pair, or actually I'm going to cover the last pair in just a few minutes. I'm going to give you a demo on how to create a 568A or B. Basically I'm going to take the Cat5 and I'm going to take a pair of Snips and I'm going to twist it around and pull off the sheath. Okay? And once I pull the sheath, there's a little pull cord that actually allows you to pull longer. And what you do, I'm going to pull that little thing out of there. It has 4, each cable has a 4 pair in it. Like we went over on the 568A and 568B, we have an orange pair, a green pair, a blue pair, and a brown pair. Alright? So what you want to do is you want to untwist every single pair so they stand as individual strands. And just give me a second here. And when you do this, what you want to do is you want to create it as a 568A or 568B. On a straight through cable, as long as both ends are identical to each other, you will have no problem and it will work properly. Okay? So once I unstrand them, you got to straighten them out. And when you cut these wires, you try to get it as straight as you possibly can so to get all the twist out of it. Because once you put it inside, it doesn't work too well when it's all twisted. So the straighter it is, the easier it is. Now, once I get it to this particular position, they say you want a ½ inch from the end of the actual sheath. So what you do to simplify it is take your thumb and put it on the back side and your index finger on the front side with just a little bit of the jacket within your thumb. And then you take your snips and you cut it at the edge of your thumb. Now, don't let go because your color code is going to mess up. But you take it and then you take the 8 pin, face it towards you, and you're going to slide it right into the RJ45. And when you push it in, at the right length, which was your thumb, what you want to do is you want to get part of the jacket within inside the RJ45 itself. Once you get it in there, and you look at all the ends at the very tip, you should see the copper ends of all the copper wires at the end of the RJ45. It's going to be hard to see if I actually put it up here, but you put it into your crimper and squeeze it. And I like to squeeze it twice just to make sure I got a solid contact. And then what we have here is one end of an RJ45 patch cable. Okay, now if I wanted to make it correctly, I'd do another RJ45 on this side, and no matter which one you use, A or B, as long as they're both on same on the both ends, you'll be perfectly fine, and your connection will work great. Now, set that aside there. The next type of cable, let me explain the difference between the 568A and 568B. IEEE made 568B the industry standard, and what IEEE does is they take all the electronics and engineering parts throughout the world and try to make everything as a standard, so not one person will be using one device, another person will be using another device, and everything will mismatch, and lots of errors and billing errors or whatever you want to call it. Now, as far as they made 568B the standard, only reason why was because you can transmit more data at a faster rate than you could on a 568A. 568A goes up to 100 meg, and 568B goes up to gigabit. Okay, and basically what that does is on an orange pair on the wire, as it goes through your cable here, this type of cable, Cat5, this is actually Cat5E, the orange pair actually is longer than every single piece of wire that is actually in the Cat5. And what it does is, it actually, as you have the 4 pair, it actually spins around like a snake coiling around your arm. And what it does is it ends up getting rid of all the crosstalk. And by that made 568B better because you got less crosstalk, you can transfer more data, and it's more reliable. So 568A, like I said, you'll find them usually in new construction around the homes, and because it's more based off a telephone, it has more of a telephone scheme, you know, when you create dial tone and whatnot, but 568B is better for data. Now the last part, what I want to show you is there is a third type of data connection, and this type of data connection is what they call a crossover. A crossover is just like this. The only difference is one side is 568A and the other side is 568B. And what you're doing is you're taking pairs 1 and 2 and you're putting them on 3 and 6 on one side and 1 and 2 on the other side. And then you're taking pairs 3 and 6 on one side and put them as 1 and 2 on the other side. So that way, what you're trying to do is anytime you connect 2 like devices, like say 2 switches or 2 routers or 2 PlayStations, connect them together so that you can play online together, or 2 PlayStations. What you're doing with the crossover cable is allowing them to communicate. If you use a straight through cable connecting 2 like devices, they will not communicate, and it actually causes a problem within your network. Alright, so basically what I'm covered was how to create a Cat5 patch cable, the different types of patch cables, and why you want to use a 568B or a 568A, and what a crossover cable is. So when you go to the store and you try to purchase a cable, about 99.9% of the time you're always going to get a 568B. And the reason why I wanted to show you what the difference was is that way you don't actually buy a crossover cable rather than a 568A or B, and the difference between them all. Hopefully you all learned something today and it works well for you. And I would like to thank you all for watching my video, and hopefully it turns out right. Thank you.